Coming up next on News Center 630, Hurricane Andrew is slapping the Gulf coastline tonight, and we'll take you there as thousands flee. There's a new employee benefit being tried that could help you in a time of dire need. Our money editor, Jack Aernecke, will tell us about it. And health editor JoAnne Purtan has news of how smoking is now being linked to certain vision problems. I'm Marty Aarons. Liz Bishop and I will have these stories and much more next, right here on News Center 630.
Liz Bishop, Marty Aarons, political commentary with Chartock, and meteorologist Neal Estano with the forecast to count on. Now, live, the #1 news in the Capital District. This is News Center 630.
And good evening, everyone. Hurricane Andrew is getting ready right now to lash out at the Gulf Coast again.
We'll have that story in just a minute, but first let's take a look at what's happening in your world now. At day 2 of the Middle East peace talks in Washington, the Palestinians are remaining cautious despite apparent Israeli openness. An Arab spokeswoman says the Israelis need to back up good intentions with real changes. She says every word and every act of the Israelis will be examined closely. The U.S. and its NATO allies failed to endorse a plan to send soldiers to guard flood and medicine headed to suffering people in Bosnia. Ambassadors from 16 NATO nations say they want more details from their military planners before giving final approval. Just when firefighters thought they had the California wildfires under control, Mother Nature took over again. 90-degree temperatures and dry winds are giving new life to the destructive fires. So far, the fires blackened an area twice the size of San Francisco, forcing thousands of people to flee their homes. And the CBS Evening News with Dan Rather will have more on these stories coming up in just about 25 minutes.
And now certainly on to the story that has captured everyone's attention for 2 days now. Hurricane Andrew is bearing down on the Louisiana and Texas coast. The deadly storm that's already killed 15 people in Florida and the Bahamas is now centered about 130 miles off the Louisiana coast. All day, the 500,000 residents of New Orleans have been evacuating their homes and heading for higher ground. But now, forecasters think that city will be spared severe damage.
Well, residents along the Texas coast are also preparing for what may be the worst storm to hit them in decades. Reporter Dan Davis is in the Texas coastal town of Sabin Pass and joins us now. Dan, very latest from you.
Well, Marty, right now the wind is picking up a little bit. No big deal as yet, but we certainly feel like something is coming. However, as you guys are reporting, it now looks like Hurricane Andrew is going to veer a little bit north sooner and hit somewhere in central Louisiana, but no one around here is taking any chances. Certainly it's a lot easier to get in here than it is to get out because people have boarded up their homes, anchored down their boats, and they're getting out of town.
Where are they likely heading? I mean, do you have any idea where they all go and how soon they'll feel safe to come back?
Well, to be honest with you, right now I think they're all sitting out on the highway. When we were coming in from Houston, the traffic going to the west toward Houston was sitting at a virtual standstill. A lot of cars overheated from sitting in traffic with the air conditioning running. They're also trying to go north. They certainly are not heading off to the east toward Louisiana.
Even Houston is under a hurricane watch at this point, isn't it?
Well, they're preparing for the worst over there. Certainly they will get some high wind, some rain from this storm. It just all depends on where Andrew ends up hitting. As everyone around here knows, a hurricane is unpredictable. It can change its course at any time, and even though right now we think it's heading towards central Louisiana, it could head this way just as easily.
Dan, these people real familiar with hurricanes?
Well, I wouldn't say real familiar. I don't know if you can ever really get familiar with a hurricane, but they certainly know a heavy storm when they see it, and so they know the right things to do. Close schools early, board up the homes, get their boats tied down, and head for higher ground, because we're only about right here, probably about 5 or 6 feet above sea level, and certainly a storm surge coming through here put a lot of this underwater.
Dan, good luck to you and all the people there. Thanks for being with us live by satellite.
Okay. Thanks, Dan. Well, meteorologist Neal Estano is tracking the hurricane.
And we're going to go to Neal right now for the very latest.
Well, thanks a lot. I just got the latest satellite loop in showing much of the Gulf of Mexico and the southeastern United States. And you can see a storm tracking across the northern Gulf of Mexico. Here's Louisiana right here, New Orleans right about there. As you can see, the storm track pretty much to the west-northwesterly track. That'll bring it right into around Vermilion Bay in the next several hours later on tonight. So the storm will be hitting at night. The worst area will be this area on the back side of the storm, and the wind's coming in this way around the storm. So it's raking right across the southern Louisiana coast. And this area right along the coast, not much above sea level. So that storm tracking east could be moving into Galveston Bay if it continues on this track. That'll be late tonight, early tomorrow. And I'm sure we'll all be keeping a close eye on this throughout the night.
Yeah, what's that? What looks like another one, right?
Oh, this area out here, it does look like another hurricane. It's not. It's an extratropical storm. It's a cold core storm, but we're going to be watching that as well. It could be interesting should this develop off the southeast coast. But right now, it's not a hurricane, not even a tropical storm.
Oh, that's some relief.
This one won't go away.
Yeah.
Thanks, Neal. Well, Dan Rather reports, of course, from the Gulf Coast on the CBS Evening News tonight at 7.
Well, yesterday, President Bush broke off from his campaign trail in New Jersey and Connecticut to rush down to Florida to visit the hurricane-ravaged sections of the state. The president's already given the go-ahead for federal disaster relief aid, and he says there are teams of relief workers in place to help residents rebuild. Some critics say that President Bush is just seizing an opportunity to exploit this disaster for campaign purposes.
Our political observer, Alan Chartock, is off this week, so we've invited presidential expert in Siena, Professor Tom Kelly, to join us to talk about what appears to be a real election year dilemma for the president. Thanks for joining us, Tom.
My pleasure.
Is this a no-win situation for the president? Damned if he does and damned if he doesn't.
Oh, I think absolutely. If he doesn't go, then he's callous and doesn't allow his feelings for people to interfere with his campaign. If he does go, he's showboating. As you say, it's a lose-lose situation.
Let's just explore the political ramifications of this. How much does he need those people in Florida to feel that he is sympathetic? I mean, politically, in terms of votes.
Florida is, in fact, very important to this president and to this election, to the whole Republican Party.
All right.
We talk about this book from Ross Perot, United We Stand. It's his economic plan, and it just came out today. Still pertinent?
Oh, I think absolutely, but can only be issued by a man who is, in fact, not running. What Perot is doing is, in effect, saying that there is pain. If you want to deal with the deficit, if you want to deal with fundamental problems, then there is pain, and it's got to be shared, whether it's 50 cents a gallon gasoline taxes, whether it is, in fact, putting income tax on total Social Security for people earning, for the sake of argument, above $85,000. Since the book is out today, I haven't had a chance to look at it, but it's probably in there someplace. He is prepared, in effect, to say this is the pain that will have to be borne, and since he's not running, he can afford to say that.
So you're saying that only a non-candidate could put out this position paper? I mean, is there any way you could win an election by telling people how much they have to suffer in order for things to get better?
Politically, the conventional wisdom says you can't afford to do it. For example, the president has spoken about mandated expenses, which is entitlements, but he's been very, very unspecific about it. That would be an area that would have to be attacked, and mandates include health care, Medicare, Medicaid, that sort of thing. They include the whole business of monies for college students. No one wants to hear that kind of thing. Everybody's opposed to welfare for everyone else, but in favor of it for themselves.
Nice to have you here, Tom Kelly, Professor, Siena College.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks.
We have a lot more to tell you about. A little later, Money Editor Jack Aernecke will tell us about a new employee benefit that everyone's going to want to know about.
But first, in news of your health, JoAnne Purtan will tell us about how we may be able to decrease our chances of getting cataracts. Those stories and more back after this. Well, in news of your health tonight, cataracts. They're the leading cause of blindness, and it's a scary fact because cataracts actually affect more than 50 million people around the world. That's incredible. That's a lot of people, but there is still hope on the horizon. Health editor JoAnne Purtan joins us now to explain about that.
Marty and Liz, researchers think that lowering your risk of getting cataracts may be as easy as extinguishing that cigarette and not lighting up another one. The study appears in this week's Journal of the American Medical Association. 2 researchers from Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston found men who smoke about a pack a day have about twice the risk of developing cataracts over the next 5 years than men who never smoked. And women who smoke about a pack to a pack and a half of cigarettes each day had about a 70% increased risk of developing cataracts over the next 8 years. The reason for the link isn't quite known, but researchers suspect smoking directly or indirectly causes oxidation in the lens, which damages the lens cells. Governor Cuomo is urging all Gulf War veterans to contact the New York State Division of Veterans Affairs to protect their rights to medical benefits. The urging comes on the heels of complaints from all over the country from Gulf War veterans complaining of symptoms like hair loss, fatigue, and even numbness. I spoke with a doctor from the VA hospital in Albany today, and he told me there's been a handful of veterans from our area complaining of symptoms, but exactly what they are or what they're caused by, they just don't know. Along with Governor Cuomo, Dr. Stern suggests all Gulf War vets become part of a national registry that will allow doctors to track symptoms and find out which each one was exposed to.
He or she has emergent symptoms, things that are life-threatening, things that need to be dealt with immediately, I would encourage them to come to the emergency room. If they have other symptoms that they're unsure whether or not they're related, and we're not sure what symptoms those might be right now, but if they have any symptoms, I'd encourage them to do two things. One would be to register with the registry, and the other thing would be to contact whoever it is that's providing their regular medical care right now, their family doctor.
If you'd like to become a part of that registry, or if you're having a medical problem, call the VA hospital. They encourage you to call the number 449-1300. And real quickly, if you want to get in touch with the State Division of Veterans Affairs office, look in your phone book under Veterans, and you can get that number.
Good enough. Thanks, JoAnne.
And still to come, Tom Mailey has the heartbreaking story of starving children who need your help.
But first, there's a new employee benefit that could help everyone who may be faced with a long-term illness. Our money editor, Jack Aernecke, will tell us about that back after this.
News Center 6, Your Money with Jack Aernecke is sponsored by Your Advantage Chrysler Plymouth dealers.
Well, there's a new employee benefit becoming popular in government that workers in private industry may soon be able to have. It's the ability to donate paid time off to a coworker.
A real nice thing. Money editor Jack Aernecke looks at the issue that may benefit all of us.
Marty and Liz, the issues involve some really very, very sad cases. There is one in the state right now where co-workers in Council 82 are trying to provide some donated paid time off for one of their co-workers who is seriously ill with leukemia. The Public Employees Federation is trying also to work out something similar for the man's wife so they can spend some time together during this critical period. The Public Employees Federation is petitioning the governor to try and allow that. The Civil Service Employees Association already has a paid, donated time off provision in its contract. Private business, though, is another matter. It doesn't exist in very many places. And Albany labor lawyer Brian Goldberger says it's something employers would tend to resist.
They're reacting pretty adamantly against having expansion of leave. They're looking at it as a cost item now because in a time when the economy's terrible, people make moves to consolidate and to cut costs and to monitor costs.
But still, paid leave, especially vacation, is a known quantity and cost. And that makes it more manageable and more attractive than the broad-based family leave proposals that have been kicking around since the 1980s. Families with problems that need time to resolve is a reality. And Goldberger says he expects to see private businesses adopt something like donated vacation.
You're going to see companies at least entertaining it as a way to deal with some family issues with two earners in a household. There are going to have to be accommodations that are going to have to be made. This might be a way to do it.
The Business Council, a lobbying group for business in New York State, has strongly opposed the so-called family leave proposals that have come up. But they are not opposed to this donated time off proposal as long as it is privately negotiated in businesses. And they agree with Goldberger that something will develop probably in the next few years.
Okay, Jack, thanks.
And Wall Street was up today. Finally, the Dow rose just over 4 points. Not a big showing, closing at 3232.22. Here are some of Jack's key stocks now. AT&T was up an eighth. GE was down an eighth. 9X picked up 1.58, and IBM was up nearly 2 points today.
Taking a look at some of the local stocks, KeyBank fell 3/8. Albany Savings unchanged today. McDonald's also unchanged, and Sears gained a half a point.
Well, the summer weather is here with a vengeance, and it was incredibly hot and humid today. Guess we'll ask Neal what the rest of the week's going to be like.
Guess what? Summer will stay with us for the rest of the week. More hot, more humid weather. Forecast next.
News Center 6 weather is sponsored by your upstate Toyota dealers.
We've done a lot of talking about all the weather around the world, around the country, but our own weather has an update now. Is that right?
That's right. I was talking about the severe thunderstorm warning in Schoharie County. Well, that's expired as of 6:30. And they're also under a flood warning in Schoharie County. That has been canceled by the National Weather Service, so things starting to get back to normal. But still, the Catskills under a flood watch through this evening. Now, today was certainly a more typical summer day than we've been used to. Today's high, 88 degrees. Now, the record high, 99. That was set back in 1947. And the low this morning, 65. It was certainly a muggy night last night, and expect the same for overnight tonight. Here's the regional radar. We do see the rain just to the north and south of the Capital District. The heaviest rain throughout the afternoon and evening has been south of the Capital District from Albany County, Greene County on south through the Catskills with showers and thunderstorms. Some of the storms have been quite strong. And some thunderstorms across Saratoga County right now, extending on into Warren County. They've been getting some storms. Thunderstorm that moved across Schoharie County caused some down power lines in the town of Summit, but that's about the only damage from these storms. There's really not much wind with them. It's just the heavy rain, and they're slow movers, too, so that heavy rain is going to fall in one spot for a fair amount of time. Well, generally quiet weather across the eastern half of the country thanks to a huge dome of high pressure. Look at the real estate that takes up. South winds on the west side of that high pressure area. Then we have this dividing line, the warm, muggy stuff to the east, cool and dry to the west. Remember the last couple of days it's been snowing in the mountains of the Rockies. Well, things have warmed up a bit. The snow has wound down, but the cold weather hasn't, slowly moderating. Now, Andrew is down in the Gulf of Mexico. If you just tuned in, things aren't looking real good for Louisiana. Winds still 140 miles per hour with that storm. It's going to be raking across the Louisiana coast overnight tonight. Here is my forecast for overnight tonight. This evening, starting out with hazy, humid conditions with some thunderstorms. They will be diminishing. Overnight tonight, it's going to be muggy, low of 68 degrees. Now, tomorrow, more of the same. Hazy, hot, humid, more afternoon storms, high approaching 90 degrees, lower Hudson Valley, possibly low 90s. Then tomorrow night, it's going to be muggy once again, about the same temperature. And then the rest of the week, Thursday, more showers, thunderstorms on the muggy side. Then Friday, looks like we'll get some rain, remnants of Andrew. Saturday and Sunday right now looks dry. If you're boating tomorrow, hey, take along that sunscreen because it's going to be on the warm side out there with hazy sunshine. Temperature in the low to mid 80s with a fairly light wind, and visibility will be low in haze. So that's the way it looks. Hot, 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 hot.
Very hot and humid. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Well, up next on News Center 630, Tom Mailey has a very emotional story about starving children, and you'll want to watch because we'll tell you how you can help.
But first, we'll take a look at the region's top stories, including the latest on the man convicted of killing a family of 5.
News Center 6 Good News with Tom Mailey is sponsored by Your Advantage Chrysler Plymouth dealers.
Well, taking another look at some of the region's top stories today, the family of 5 people killed in a drunk driving accident are outraged because the man who pleaded guilty to manslaughter was not sentenced. David Hinkhouse admitted to drunk driving in the deaths of Arthur and Sabrina Rouse and their 3 children in Saratoga County last year. But because of an adjournment, sentencing will not happen until September 8th.
A live-in health aide accused of beating the wheelchair-bound woman she took care of pleaded not guilty to charges in Albany County Court. Mary E. Umpierre is charged with hitting 84-year-old Carolyn Brown with a hammer. The incident began after Brown discovered her assistant had reportedly stolen thousands of dollars from her. Umpierre is being held without bail on attempted murder and assault charges. And we'll take a look now at what's in the works for 11 at 11, Marty.
Should be a busy night. Andrew's spinning mad and storming towards the Gulf Coast. He's expected to make landfill tonight, and of course we'll bring you the breaking story live. And did you ever have a good idea for a gadget or gizmo that you thought was a guaranteed money maker? Well, beware of that, and we'll tell you more tonight on 11 at 11.
You know, all this week on CBS This Morning, Dr. Bob Arnott is showing us the conditions of the starving people of Somalia. The country is really devastated.
But there is something that we can do right here in the United States, and Tom Mailey joins us to tell us how we can help in Good News Tonight. Tom.
Well, you're right, Liz. This is some situation, Marty. The situation in Somalia is heartbreaking. The numbers of dead and dying staggering. This country needs attention now. The United Nations has reported that 5,000 Somalians are dying each day, and that 3/4 of the 6.5 million people are at risk of starvation. Dr. Teresa Henkel is one of the physicians facing an almost impossible task.
It's very hard to watch them die, and if there looks like there's any glimmer of hope at all, I'm going to give it to them. My heart is broken so much of the time. I want to give them so much, and there's so little to give.
Congressman Mike McNulty spent some time in Africa back in 1989.
And I know what it's like in that part of the world when you're trying to deliver relief supplies in the middle of a civil war. The government almost doesn't exist there. There are several tribes fighting for power, and you have to step back and say to yourself, for power over what?
The good news here is that there are several ways you can help these desperate people. Contact your congressmen and senators. Tell them you think this situation needs their immediate attention and action.
The thing we hope and pray for is that we can convince the combatants to lay down their arms long enough so that we can assist all of the people.
Now, there is another way that you can pitch in and aid the starving families in Somalia. That's to make a donation. Now, there are several groups gathering funds. One of the groups is the Catholic Relief Services, and you can send your donations to this address here. It's Albert Turo, Catholic Relief Services, 40 North Main Avenue, Albany, New York, 12203. Now, Catholic Relief Services will receive these nationally. They're working on several approaches. This is incredibly dangerous to try and get aid into this country, but apparently they're working on some innovative approaches to do just that.
I know it's awfully futile, too, that in many cases the people that need it most are having the food stolen, snatched right away from them.
Right, warehouses looted.
Yeah.
But if you send the money to Catholic Relief Services, you have a pretty good chance of knowing it'll get there.
They've told us they're working on some approaches to get it there. They're sharp.
That's the key. Sad story, Tom.
Yeah, it is. It's a tough one, but see if we can pitch in there and give them a hand.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
You bet. Thanks.
We want to remind you before we go now that if you shoot news on your home video camera, to be sure and let us know. You just dial our tips phone at 346-TIPS. That's 346-8477. On a cellular phone, you press *6, and it's a free call. And if you send us your home video of news happening, you'll get a $125 gift certificate. That would be good for video purchases at all Burns camera and video stores.
Well, that sounds nice. That's it for News Center 6:30 this Tuesday. Thanks for making us part of your day. Stay tuned now for the CBS Evening News.
And we'll see you again at 11. We hope we'll look for you then. Have a good night, everyone.